He does, however, have one very serious flaw. He's a KU graduate. But somehow he's overcome that arrogance, and he's actually a very humble, decent human being. But the thing I'm the most proud of as I recite those names, Kathleen, Sam, Pat, Dan, Jerry, and Adrian, is you notice that there are both Republicans and Democrats in that list. I think if I've left any legacy as an ag policy specialist, it is that I have faithfully followed a nonpartisan approach as an extension specialist from 1971 to 2004. Now, it was mentioned tonight that we had a fair this afternoon for two newly elected national offers of the Future Farmers of America. I need to remind you that both of those are students of mine in the same class, along with the recipient of the National Star Agribusiness Award, 3 in 1 year. We educate at K-State the best and the brightest. And I don't think there's another professor that could stand up here and say that he had 3 people like that in class at the same time. Now, no university professor has ever served with or worked with a more capable university professor than, or university president than Dr. John Weefeld. And I've served with many deans. There's just something about old Fred. We took to each other. And it is a true story that he didn't take the job until he heard that I retired. But the thing I like about John and Fred is that they're teachable. John, I don't think any professor and any president's had the relationship we've had. And I have to tell this story. And since my daughter opened with one of my favorite words, I can get away with it. Do you remember that speech you sent me, that fax to me years ago? And I wrote piece of shit on it and sent it back? That's a true story. And I said to my secretary, stay by the phone, it's going to ring. Now, most university presidents would have made life miserable for a young professor that had either the guts or the idiocy to do something like that. But not this man. He wanted to know why. That's the mark of John Weefeld. He wanted to know why. He treats his staff and his professors as equals intellectually. And I've taught him some things, but he's taught me many things. So, John, you have no idea how much it means to me that you're here. And Fred, we got many years to go. I've never known a dean. You know, I describe this man as the farmer's dean. And that's exactly what we need. So it's going to be great. Many more years with John and Fred. They've both been great supporters of Carl, and I appreciate that. But in my humble opinion, and my wife says there's no such thing as a Flinchbaugh humble opinion. And I don't want any of the other speakers to take offense. But in my humble opinion, in the Flinchbaugh tradition, James and Kate stole the show. I've got a veterinarian and an attorney. I've covered legally and medically. Now, daughter was correct. The tears flow pretty easily. But it simply wouldn't be appropriate to do this tonight. Without mentioning my oldest son, who is a K-State graduate and was awarded a degree by this man posthumously. When I went that day to accept that degree, that's the toughest thing I've ever done in my life. Now, these three kids are who they are and what they are. Because of that woman sitting there. She's played one role, which has been extremely valuable to me. When I would come home mad, upset, cussing, a lot of wives would have said, "Poor Barry." And she said, "Straighten up." And dear, you know that's true. And you all know the outcome. I straightened up. I'm so pleased that many of my former students are here and represented by Senator Sam, by Kendall Frazier, and Jay Armstrong. If I missed one, I'm sorry. You make an old professor proud. You know, those kids are our real legacy. But my professional legacy are over 3,000 students. Highly successful farmers like Jay Armstrong. And in the morning, I'm going to call Glickman. I found a new actor. Where is he? I didn't know you had it in you. It was so accurate and so much like me that it scared me. Jay Armstrong is the man that started this endowment with the first check. And he talked his good buddy Richard Porter into parting with some of Richard's money. So we wouldn't be here tonight if Jay hadn't started this endowment. And Jay, I think you know my affection for you. Producing a student like that has made it all worth it. Kendall and I are now neighbors. And I was so pleased that you talked about your dad. His dad is certainly in a handful of the most wisest people I've ever known. And I can hear him saying that. I learned a lot from your father. And unfortunately, all the stories you told were true. Among my students are leaders of farm organizations, ag economics professors. Mark Edelman, where are you? Mark came the whole way from Iowa State. And I have to tell this story. He remembers it. He'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. He was my graduate student, and we were granted a fairly good sized sum of money from the legislature to study the impact of use value appraisal in every county and every school district in the state of Kansas. It was hot stuff. We did it. We called a press conference. We released the data. The Wichita Eagle ran the maps that Sunday morning, and about 11 o'clock I got a call from a county commissioner in Wallace County, Mr. Walker, who said, "Flinchbaugh, your numbers are wrong." Needless to say, Edelman got a telephone call. Remember, Mark? I think, in fact, you were going out of town that day, but you didn't make the trip. Reworked them by hand, and we got the same answers that the county commissioner got. Well, a slight mistake in the computer program had thrown off the county numbers where there were large acreages of grassland. So what do? We'd have got away with denying it for a while. And if Nixon and Clinton would have learned this lesson, history would be different. Governor Bennett was to have a press conference the next morning using the data. How do you find the governor on Sunday night? Former student. Worked for him at Cedar Crest. And I'll never forget Governor Bennett. I told him the story, told him the results were the same, but the numbers were off slightly in counties that were heavy with grassland. He had his press conference. He endorsed it. And when asked where to find information on it, he said, "Flinchbaugh knows more about anybody in the state." And he could have did me in that morning. We had a new press conference. We presented the new numbers. Wichita Eagle ran the maps again with an editorial. We always knew college professors made mistakes, but we finally found one with the integrity to admit it. I got so much good publicity over that. Frankly, Mark, I'm glad we made the mistake, you see. But it was a very simple lesson. Many of my students are in the agribusiness community, the banking community. There's a couple here the whole way from St. Louis. Michael Doan and his delightful wife, who I think may have been my most intriguing student. Piece of work. Julie, I dearly love you. And I'm going to make an announcement tonight. If I live long enough, Michael Doan will be president of Monsanto. Many are the backbone of rural communities throughout Kansas. That's my real professional legacy. Now, this event is not about Flinchbaugh. This event is about ag and rural leadership. In 1989, I called together a group of ag leaders, and they became the nucleus of Carl. The most copied, the most duplicated, the most admired ag and rural leadership program in the United States. We've graduated 270 leaders. We've raised $3 million because of your generosity. With the hard work of the board and our dedicated president, Mr. Lindquist, and Jack, I do remember that trip to Lawrence when I told you need to apply for this new job. And to think in 1 year, just 1 year, President Steve Backus, Kansas Farm Bureau, Carl graduate. President John Thamert, National Association of Wheat Growers, Carl graduate. And I'd love to tell John, if he'd have just come to K-State and took my ag policy course, he'd have amounted to something. Instead, he went to Fort Hays, which I consider the second best institution of higher learning in this state. Don't ask me which one's last. Ron Supis, the president of U.S. Wheat Associates. and David Cross, the president of the Kansas Livestock Association. So we did it. What they said couldn't be done has happened. And tonight we raised $85,000. I have to say in closing a couple more words about the politicians, and then I'll shut up. It's getting late, and we got a football game at 11:30. The next time you see the governor of Kansas, ask her about the picture that is floating around this state of her sitting on my bed in the empty grain bin. She'll blush, but she remembers it. The next time you see Dan Glickman, tell him that his speech making has deteriorated because of that damn writer's strike. And the next time you see Sam, ask him about his afro hairdo that he had when he was a student. And ask him what he majored in. Aggieville. And then there's Mr. Coberly. Thank God those boys had a good-looking, smart mother. Rod Bentley and I visited earlier tonight, and we're going to begin the recall petition in Gove County in the morning. They need a new county commissioner. And then, last but not least, my old buddy, Eric. There are some things about him and there's some qualities he has that you all don't know about. Spend a week with him in a cabin, then you'll learn. Right, Brad? He moved the chair after I went to bed. At age 65, you get up at least once a night. And in my case, I usually go to the bathroom and then the refrigerator. And I hit my shin on the rocker of the chair. And by morning, it was as big as a basketball, almost. I'll tell you what, Eric don't have a nursing degree, but he's a damn good nurse. He massages feet just delightfully. Well, it's time to call it a night. I just don't know how this thing could have gone any better. But I think it's appropriate with me to end, because you all know me and the kids know me. They know how I look at things. It's been a great night. We raised $85,000. Thank you.